5-year-old mother of one overdosed on heroin and prescription drugs. She had a history of mental illness and left a suicide note as well as a signed letter giving custody of her daughter to her mother. Justice John Burns accepted she had a suicide pact with Walmsley. He helped her obtain a large amount of heroin which they injected over the course of the day and that night. A jury found him guilty in July, but he maintains he was only trying to help her. In sentencing, Justice Burns said Walmsley had shown very little, if any, remorse. If you sought help from mental health services or police, it is probable she would have weathered the storm and been able to get help. We'll never know for sure. The court also heard Walmsley, who has a history of drug addiction, used heroin and amphetamines regularly during the trial to cope with the stress. He'll be eligible for parole in June 2015.
If you need support, contact Lifeline. Hundreds of people were evacuated from Customs House in Civic late this afternoon following an automatic alarm and reports of smoke. A section of Constitution Avenue was closed. ACT fire and rescue crews investigated and found no sign of fire.
A few crews inside, they've done a search of the area, the smoke's dissipated. We're now going to do some atmospheric monitoring to make sure it's safe for the occupants to go back inside.
New South Wales Premier Barry O'Farrell was in Queanbeyan today for his first visit since the federal election. Queanbeyan now has Liberal members at every level of government, but there's still no promise of funding for desperately needed infrastructure upgrades.
1976 was the last time a Liberal member for Eden Monaro welcomed a Premier from the same party.
Welcome to Queanbeyan. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
And even though the new member was still getting used to the political limelight, it's hoped his arrival will speed up the rate of infrastructure projects in the area.
The Kings and Barton Highway, but also hopefully, and I'm going to have discussions with the Mayor shortly, issues around the Queanbeyan bypass as well.
The Ellerton Drive extension was one of the key issues being discussed today between the Premier, Mayor and local members. With the change of government, Queanbeyan lost Labor's election pledge of a $40 million road project connecting Googong to the Monaro Highway. But the Mayor has always preferred the idea of a bypass, and now it's hoped it will come sooner rather than later.
Unless we achieve that date, we're going to have road network failure throughout Queanbeyan.
But even with Liberal members now at each level of government, there was no guarantees of funding.
We need to talk at the federal and state levels about getting money for those projects.
And any funding that comes could be a long way away.
And that'll be discussions that will go on over the next few months, if not years.
We know that there's an enormous backlog of infrastructure projects across New South Wales.
Lincoln Rothel, WIN News.
Around 6,000 homes and businesses in Goulburn were blacked out last night after power lines came down in the CBD. Emergency services were called to Auburn Street at around 8 o'clock to put out a grass fire sparked by downed lines. The area was closed off to traffic and the hazard removed from the street. Power was restored about an hour and a half later. The ACT government is offering $5,000 for information on illegal firearms in a bid to slow down gun-related crime. The new initiative follows a spate of shootings in Canberra's north.
3 shootings in a month, all targeted attacks. Police suspect the first at a Gungahlin tattoo parlour could have involved the rebels' motorcycle gang. The second attack is believed to have been a domestic dispute, yet another possibly drug-related.
The use of firearms for criminal acts is a very serious offence, and it not only endangers police, it potentially endangers innocent people in our community.
Today, the